It was 11:47 on a Friday night when Jack Mercer dialed a phone number he knew nobody would answer. He had been doing it for 19 years. The number belonged to Mary Ann, the woman he should have married, the woman he let walk away. Every Friday night, after 2 cups of coffee and more regret than he cared to admit, Jack called the number. He listened to the voicemail. Then he hung up. That was the ritual. That was the punishment. That was how he remembered. Outside, rain rolled across the windows of the last open diner. Inside, the coffee was hot. The neon sign buzzed softly, and Jack sat alone in the booth nearest the jukebox. Same seat, same time, same number, for 19 years. The call connected. The familiar voicemail greeting began. Mary Ann's voice. Older recordings preserve people in strange ways. You stop hearing words. You start hearing ghosts. Hi, you've reached Mary Ann. Leave a message after the tone. The beep arrived. Jack smiled sadly. Still raining tonight. That was all he said. It was always something small. Never the things he actually wanted to say. Never the apology. Never the confession. Never the truth. Just little observations, as though she might somehow hear them. As though somewhere, somehow, she still cared whether it was raining. He ended the call, took a sip of coffee, looked out at the road. The waitress, Nora, walked over. You okay, Jack? He laughed. Depends how honest we're being. Nora smiled. I'll bring a refill. Jack nodded. Everyone in the diner knew him. Nobody knew the whole story. Only pieces. Only enough to understand that every Friday involved a phone call and a sadness he never quite managed to put down. Nora returned with fresh coffee. You ever gonna tell me about her? Jack stared into the steam rising from the cup. Maybe. Maybe tonight? Jack looked toward the rain. For a moment, he seemed older than his years. Then he sighed. Maybe tonight. Nora sat down. The diner was nearly empty. Jack rubbed his hands together. Mary Ann wasn't supposed to become a memory. His voice was quiet. She was supposed to become my wife. The rain seemed louder after that. Jack leaned back. We met when we were 22. He smiled. Actually, that's not true. He laughed softly. We met when we were 12. Mary Ann had moved into town during the summer. She wore denim overalls, climbed trees better than most boys, and broke Jack's nose during a baseball game 3 weeks after arriving. That was the first time he noticed her. The second time was when she helped him up. The third time was when he realized he couldn't stop thinking about her. Life carried them in different directions. School, jobs, relationships. Years passed. Then one autumn evening they ran into each other at a grocery store. Both older, both single, both pretending they hadn't spent years wondering what happened to the other. The conversation lasted 20 minutes. The first date lasted 5 hours. The relationship lasted 7 years. For 7 years, Mary Ann was the best part of Jack's life. She laughed loudly, sang badly, talked during movies, always stole fries from his plate while insisting she wasn't hungry. The kind of woman who made ordinary days feel important. The kind of woman people spend the rest of their lives trying to replace. Jack never replaced her. Not really. Nora listened quietly. What happened? Jack stared at the coffee. Then he laughed. Not because it was funny. Because sometimes people laugh when the truth still hurts. I got scared. The answer surprised her. Scared of what? Jack looked out at the road. Everything. Marriage, responsibility, growing older, being happy, losing it, all of it. He shook his head. Funny thing is, people think fear looks dramatic. He smiled sadly. Most of the time it looks like hesitation. The proposal never happened. The conversations got harder. The distance got bigger. Neither one cheated. Neither one betrayed the other. Nothing exploded. Things simply slowly broke, one ordinary day at a time. Until one evening, Mary Ann sat across from him and asked a question. A simple question. One he still remembered word for word. Do you actually want a future with me? Jack swallowed. Nora already knew the answer. Because she knew he hadn't answered correctly. Back then, he couldn't. Fear spoke louder than love. Silence spoke louder than both. Mary Ann nodded, and something changed in her eyes. Not anger, not hatred, acceptance. The kind that arrives when someone finally realizes they've been waiting alone. A month later, she left town. 6 months later, she stopped calling. A year later, mutual friends stopped mentioning her. Eventually, all traces disappeared, except one, the phone number. Jack found out years later that she had moved across the country. Then years after that, he heard she had passed away. Cancer. 48 years old. Gone before he found the courage to call. That should have been the end. But it wasn't, because regret is stubborn. The first Friday after learning she had died, Jack called the number. The voicemail answered. He listened, then hung up. The next Friday, he did it again, then again, then again, until 19 years had passed. Nora stared at him. Why? Jack smiled. Because if I stop calling, I have to admit the conversation is over. The diner fell silent. Rain tapped against the glass. Jack looked at his phone. I know it sounds ridiculous. It doesn't. It does. No, Nora said softly. It sounds human. Jack looked down. For the first time all night, his eyes seemed tired. Not physically tired, soul tired. The kind of exhaustion people carry when they've been talking to the past for too long. The clock crept toward midnight. Jack finished his coffee. The diner grew quieter. Then his phone rang. Both of them looked at it. Jack frowned. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Almost. Instead, he answered. Hello? For a moment, there was only static. Then a voice. A woman's voice. Jack froze. Nora watched the color drain from his face. The voice spoke again. Older. Different. But familiar enough to stop his heart. Jack. The coffee cup slipped from his hand. Neither of them noticed. For 19 years he had called Mary Ann's number. Now someone was calling back. His voice barely worked. Who is this? A pause. Then, my name is Claire. Jack said nothing. I was Mary Ann's daughter. The world seemed to stop moving. The rain, the diner, the clock, everything. Gone. Only the voice remained. Claire laughed nervously. I know this is strange. Jack couldn't speak. I found your messages. Silence. I found all of them. Jack closed his eyes. 19 years of Friday nights. 19 years of voicemails. 19 years of things left unsaid. Claire continued. Mum kept the number. His heart nearly stopped. She listened to every message. Jack looked like a man struggling to breathe. What? Everyone. The tears arrived before he realized they were coming. Claire's voice softened. She never deleted them. Jack lowered his head. For nearly 2 decades, he believed he had been talking into emptiness. He hadn't. Someone had been listening. The rain blurred the windows. The diner disappeared behind tears. Why are you calling me? He asked. Claire was quiet for a moment. Then she answered, because before she died, she left a note. Jack gripped the phone tighter. A note. His heart hammered. Claire unfolded paper on the other end of the line. Then she read, if Jack ever calls again, tell him I forgave him a long time ago. Jack shut his eyes. The years collapsed. All 19 of them. Gone. Reduced to one sentence. Claire continued reading. He spent too much time punishing himself for something I stopped being angry about years ago. Jack covered his face. Nora looked away, giving grief privacy, even when it arrived in public. Claire's voice trembled. Tell him I was happy. Jack cried openly now. No dignity, no pride, no pretending, just tears, the kind that have been waiting decades. The note ended with one final line. Claire read it softly. Tell him to stop calling and start living. Silence filled the diner. Jack laughed through tears, because that sounded exactly like Marianne. Practical, honest, a little stubborn. Claire laughed too. She really said that. I know. For the first time in years, Jack smiled. A real smile. Not the sad ones, not the surviving ones. A genuine one. The call lasted nearly an hour. They talked about Marianne, stories, memories, life. When it finally ended, the rain had almost stopped. Jack sat quietly. Nora returned to the booth. Neither spoke immediately. Then Jack looked at the phone. It's over. Nora nodded. Yeah. But he wasn't sad. Not the way she expected. The weight he'd carried for 19 years seemed lighter somehow. Not gone, just lighter. He looked out at the road. The clouds were beginning to break. A few stars appeared between them. For the first time in a very long time, tomorrow felt larger than yesterday. Jack stood, left money for the coffee, then paused by the door. Nora smiled. You coming back next Friday? Jack thought about it. Then he smiled. Maybe. He opened the door. Cool air drifted inside. The rain had finally stopped. Before stepping out, he looked back at the diner, at the booth, at the place where he had spent nearly 2 decades talking to a ghost. Then he laughed softly. No. Nora raised an eyebrow. No. Jack shook his head. Next Friday, I think I'm going somewhere new. And for the first time in 19 years, he walked away from the past. Not because he forgot it, because he finally didn't need to carry it alone. Outside, the road stretched into the darkness. Inside, the light stayed on, just like it always did at the last open diner.